right, folks, the Circuit City Classic for 40 years has been one of the top HBCU football classics in the country. Hundreds of thousands of people have attended the games. Upwards of 60,000 one game, folks. This year, the game took place. No, the game didn't take place. Right, that was a Circle City Classic, but that was no game. Instead, the Classic was just Battle of the Bands and of the other events that are around the game. Scottay, the host of OffScript TV, joins us from Atlanta. Scottay, glad to have you here. The promoters told the Indianapolis Star that, frankly, it's cost them lots of money. They've had dwindling of football attendance at this game, and when this game started, it was one of the preeminent classics. It was one of the largest, but you now have had such a proliferation of HBCU classics. We just saw one that was in New York, actually in New Jersey. About 35,000 fans were there to see the Howard Morehouse game. Then you got the Florida A&M Jackson State Classic. You've got the one in Memphis. You've got the one in Dallas. But the Chicago Football Classic, no game this year. And I think the Atlanta Classic has been discontinued, correct?
Yeah, that's where the 100 Black Men used to be at. They don't do that either.
So, so are you surprised to see that the Circle City Classic, again, one of the most prominent ones, no game. They were like, nobody was going to the game anyway, so we'll just bring the bands in.
That's what HBCU fans want anyway. At the end of the day, they love their bands. I don't think it's much about football anyway. But talking to a few people that have been around the sport and just a couple of people that actually went to the event, and they spoke to some coordinators, they just said I heard it on two sides. You had scheduling conflicts that a lot of teams, when they reached out, their schedule was already packed, so they couldn't get there. And then you had other people saying that people are trying to get away from classics. They know that it's not in the best benefit of a lot of football programs because you're usually taking a Southern program to come all the way up north to Indianapolis. You're not, you're paying. They have to pay for the expenses, pay for the band, and if you're not paying them a certain amount of money, it actually they may break even, they may lose something. So classics aren't generating as much revenue as they once were.
And it's interesting because you take Chicago. Chicago has the third largest concentration of African Americans in the country. There's no HBCU there. You have a PBI, Chicago State University. And even when they have that game at Soldier Field, it's not a packed out game. You got 3.5, you got, 2 million black folks in Chicago.
Yeah. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they even have the Black Hall of Fame game up right, around the same time the NFL has their start off and the kickoff, and that game isn't predominantly packed as well. So I was more surprised, if I'm being honest, that I saw as many people pack out MetLife. It was over 35,000 Morehouse and Howard fans that attended the game, and I thought that was an amazing crowd to have at MetLife. But you just with the Circle City Classic, they've had a changing of the guard. It's nothing like the Southern Heritage Classic where it's a Tennessee State, Jackson State. You know what you're going to get. For the past 4 to 5 years, Kentucky State was their bread and butter. They were always at the Circle City Classic. They showed up and showed out, but the attendance still dwindled, and they're a Division II team. So I'm shocked that they couldn't have got Kentucky State back up to the Circle City Classic to have some type of game. And in 2019, Kentucky State played Jackson State, which they beat. So, they've been up there.
Is this also an indication that, frankly, when we look at these games, that at the end of the day, for fans, they want to see best talent? And frankly, are fans also saying they simply don't see HBCU football games as being really interesting, competitive games? And to your point, they're like, all right, show me halftime.
It's usually always been about the bands, and everybody's watched drum lines. Halftime is game time, So I think that's the narrative that Deion is trying to change down at Jackson State, that, you can get some talent. You can recruit the right people. You can put a good or a great product on the field like they have and other programs in the MEAC like North Carolina Central has and how South Carolina State has. So you can put a good product on, but you also need the fans to come and support the game, not the halftime, not the tailgating, not the fashion show at the stadium, because you want somebody to see how you look. They have to come and support the game.
But here's the deal, though. But if I don't have a tie to the school, I mean, perfect example. I'm a Texas A&M graduate. I'll be honest, I don't have an association with another school. So if I live in Indianapolis, I live in Chicago, I mean, okay, 2 schools come in, all right. I'm not necessarily, I mean, look, I'm born and raised in Houston. I lived in Chicago 6 years. I didn't give a damn about the Chicago Bears. I didn't go to any games. I didn't care. And also I think television, streaming has also changed the game. Because even on the whole point about, okay, I want to see halftime show. Well, actually, if I want to see I can go to YouTube and literally watch shows now live. And so I think at the end of the day, and it's also for the classics, you are expecting fans to travel. Well, if you're playing several classics, as a fan, you like, well, am I going to travel to, if I'm Grambling, am I going to travel to Dallas for the State Fair Classic? I'm going to travel to the Bayou Classic. I'm going to travel here. I mean, I think this is also part of the deal. And schools are also saying, to your point, if we ain't making money off of this, why are we doing this?
It goes back to two folds. You have schools not promoting their players, so you don't even know who I'm coming to see.
Right.
There's no interest to say, oh, I want to see this special player, or I want to see this special talent. The bands get all the promotion because they know the band is good. They know, the music they're going to play, or they know how they're going to sound. So there's an expectation there. But when you're going to see a football game, you don't know who the starting quarterback is. You don't know who your star player is. You don't know why I should come see this game or why it's important other than the pageantry around the game. You start losing core football people who are interested in actually the game. And then I have to go travel hundreds of miles or, a few hours out of my way to go when I can watch it online, or I can watch another game at that same time. You start losing the fan attendance.
To bring my panel right now, Omo Congo, look, it's interesting that when you look at a lot of these events, whether we want to own up to it or not, what attracts fans, it ain't the event. It's the stuff around the event. It's the step show. It's the halftime show. It's the parties. And so the folks in Indianapolis were like, well, what the hell? We just going to do all that stuff and say the hell with the game.
Absolutely. It's very interesting. And this kind of goes back to the conversation we were having last week when Scottay was on, when we were talking about Deion Sanders and HBCUs. I think that it's really important that many people within the HBCU community, people like Deion Sanders and heads of programs and marketing departments, really start to come together and start looking at new ways to reach our audiences. Because really, at the end of the day, this particular classic has been going on, since like 1984, and you said over 60,000 people that have attended at one point. But we're in a new age now where people are able to stream, where people are able to do so much, and we have to ask ourselves the question, is is the leadership of our schools and our organizations, are they really working to meet the new times? Because other organizations and professional sports and regular other college sports, they're still filling up the stadiums. They're still having, people who are, getting crazy ratings in terms of watching the games on television and the like. We need to look at ways to make our stuff more appealing in this new age that we're in. And if we don't do that, I feel like these are not going to be the exceptions. They're going to end up being the rule for other classics down the line.
Tanya, the thing here is, I just think that when we are now talking about this sports piece, we're just living in a whole different world these days. And guess what? If you want fans to come out, it's a lot of competing options for the dollar of those fans.
Absolutely. And I attended a PWI. I graduated from James Madison University. And so the first time I went to an Atlanta Classic with my cousin, at halftime, I got up to go to the bathroom, and she's like, wait a minute, we came for this. And so I want to add to the mix of things that may be influencing what we're seeing, the pandemic that we're still living through. I wonder if there were some realities around that pandemic that may have influenced the decision to cancel this particular classic.
Well, again, Scotty, the story that I read, well, the promoters just simply said, from a cost-benefit analysis, if the folk only coming there to hear the bands, what the hell? No sense in bringing in the football team and everything else that goes along with it. Now you're talking about either flying them in, busing them in. You're talking about support staff. That's a lot of, and then paying the game check.
Yeah.
Now, I do hope that the band's got a check.
They did. They got $30,000. So, but, to her living through the pandemic, they played the game last year. Benedict and Kentucky State played last year. So, once again, like I said, Kentucky State has been a staple there. So I don't think that was the cause. But when you have, like Roland, you have so many cost benefit analysis, and you talk about it all the time, running the business is you want to be in the black. So it doesn't make sense for me to bring in an ancillary part of the revenue that people aren't really coming to see anyway. But I have to still pay out, $100,000 to $200,000 for a part of the action that people really don't want to come see anyway, when I can make money just selling tickets to a band event. And if you know anything about the HBCU culture, I mean, they had Battle of the Bands not too long ago, and I think they got about 40,000 people in the stadium at the Battle of the Bands. So it's a culture in its own. It's a culture in its own.
Yep. Lauren.
I know we're talking about classics, but like in the last 3 weeks, I went to see Hampton play Howard, and then I went to see Norfolk State play Hampton, Battle of the Bay at Norfolk State. And I gotta tell you, people were riveted to the game. Now, of course, they were special games. It's kind of like homecoming or the first game of the year. And obviously, when two HBCUs play each other, it's a big deal, particularly in Virginia. And when Hampton played Norfolk State, there was a line going from the ticket booth that was unbelievable. And then there was a line to get in. It was just hard to get in, But at any rate, obviously, you're right. Everybody was there very excited about the bands. And there's no denying that. But I would not totally laugh at the game, even though Norfolk State and Hampton, I think Howard actually is 3-0 now, but Norfolk State is not very good at all. But when it's a special game and homecoming,
that's a different deal. So, for instance, because now you're talking about two fan bases and yes, a homecoming game, that's different. What's happening now with these classics is what you're seeing people now shine a light on these games, and now the financial realities. Why are we traveling? Because what people don't realize is when a team travels for a classic, they're giving up a home game. So all of a sudden, you're now on the road, and so I think the number of this, Scotty, Grambling only has 3 home games this year, and they're constantly between the road games and the classics, and so you start asking yourself the question: we're spending a lot of money on the road going to classic, and is it frankly financially beneficial to be doing that versus playing on the road where there's no travel? We can play in a home stadium, sell tickets, concessions, parking, and for your fan base, if they're coming back to your campus, they're bringing money back. I'm a Texas A&M graduate. Texas A&M plays Arkansas. Jerry Jones cuts a big-ass check for Arkansas and Texas A&M to give up a home game to play in Dallas in his stadium. Now, he's an Arkansas graduate, but that's a big check, several $1 million, because those two schools can make a ton of money if it's a home and home.
And this is the thing. See, Miss Lawrence talking about, Norfolk State and, Hampton and Howard. Like, go to a game where Norfolk State is playing Morgan and tell me if you see the same attendance. Go to a game when Hampton's playing Delaware State or Howard's playing Delaware State and tell me if you see the same attendance. And that's the problem. If you're a football fan and you're supporting your school, you just go to the game.
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter who you're playing. It's like, I'm supporting my school.
Like that. At A&M, we had 100,000 people watching Texas A&M play Sam Houston State.
because they're there for the game, they're there for the team, and that's what you lack at a lot of HBCUs. And this is the backwards business that happens at HBCUs. Okay, if I'm Grambling and I have a promoter coming to me and says, "Hey, I want to move you to Houston, or I want to move you to Dallas," well, you're going to pay me 5 to 4 times what I would make at home to get me to move, because that's the only way it's going to be beneficial to me. But instead of you giving me, you're going to give me what I made, or maybe less than what I made, just to say, "Oh, I'm going to put you on TV." That doesn't do me anything, because you're making all the money on the back end being a promoter. So it has to do with better business that has to be done by HBCUs if you do decide to be in a class. And then it also has to make sense of who you're playing. Just don't go play no any old body. And I think that's the Circuit City Classics issue, that they don't have a staple team, so you don't know who's going to be there next year. You're like, it might be Kentucky State, it might be Howard, it might be Morehouse. You never know.
Absolutely. All right, Scottay, certainly appreciate it, folks. Subscribe to Scottay's channel on YouTube, OffScript TV. You definitely want to check it out. And so he keeps it wild and crazy in his show, so you don't want to miss that. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks a lot.
Get it, roll.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?